Hello, everyone. So welcome back to the B part of this form class. Now, in our first part, we were able to create forms. We had a text box, a text area, select, check boxes, password field, and date field. Now, in this class, we're going to improve on our knowledge by creating a new HTML5 would I say attributes that you can add to HTML to make it more efficient to be able to verify for some stuff, for example. So we are going to learn that in the B part of this class. So let's get started. Now I've created a basic HTML form, said forms B, to improve that form we had before. So let's say we have an input component. Now we usually will have text equal to so type is equal to text. Okay, so this works already. So we have this. Now we want to improve our this text box with other components that you would usually define while defining text boxes to be able to capture the exact user input that you need. For instance, you may have a gender field. Okay, let me tell, maybe you can have a name field and you just expect somebody's name should not be as long as 30 characters, for instance. And then you have to limit your characters to 30. Otherwise, if a robot accesses your site, it will type million characters on that and try to get access to your database. So it's a way of managing your space and making things work well for you. So let's look at this. If I begin to type and type and type and type and type and keep typing, I can type till. So this is not the way things should be done. Now we have an HTML attribute that is called max length. Max length allows you to limit the number of characters that are typed into that particular text box, not just for input type score to text, for other functionalities as well. So let's say I wanted to ask if somebody is a male or female. So I'll probably think in my head, between male and female, female is longer. How many characters are female? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, something like that. So I'll say max length 6. So let's see if it works. So here, fine. The person says it's a male, fine, no problem. If the person types female, no problem. But if the person continues to type, I'm typing. So it doesn't pass that limit that you set. Okay, that way you are able to manage the number of characters or the type of text that is inputted into your system. So you use max length for that. There is also min length. Okay. So another thing I would like to show is there are times let's have a button so that I can better explain this. So we have a button as well. So we have a button, click me. So we have a button here. So in a normal day, if I click this, there's no problem. I type something, I click, there's no problem at all. But if I put a required command here, what I mean is that this particular component is required. The user is actually required to type something. The user is required to type something on that. So let's have a form here first and then get it up here. So we should always have form elements inside of our form tag. So now when you try to click the button, it will bring out an error message that this particular component was required. So let's see how that works. Tag, there's no problem now because you've entered something. But if I try to click without entering something, it gives me a prompt, gives me a message, please fill out this field, it's compulsory. So that's a way you can use to make sure that um, you are able to, let's have up to 3 of these before the button. Okay, so let me just say that this one is first name, for instance. This one is middle name, for instance, and this one is surname. So you should think outside the box as a designer. Everybody will have first name and surname, but most people don't have middle name. So what you do is you make this to be required, that's compulsory, and then you make surname to be compulsory. You allow middle name to be left empty in case somebody does not have a middle name. So let's see how to do that. So we remove required from here and probably say first name should be, first name can be 20, middle name 20, and then surname 20 as well, max length. So people can have long names that span up to 20. So if you want to submit this form now, see what happens. So I've not filled out this field. So I have to probably John, and this doesn't matter. Even if I click here, it's going to show here because this is also required. So all the required fields, no matter how long your form is, you'll get a prompt that you should fill them. So that way, the person who designed the website is able to track information that he really needs and that the user is mandated to fill. So you use required, you use required component, or you use required attributes in a component to achieve that. Now, the other thing I'll show you, you've probably been seeing this on many websites. The other thing I should show you is placeholder. Now, a placeholder, as the name implies, is just a text that you keep on a particular input or a particular HTML element. Not that the text will be sent to the database, not that the text will be submitted, but it's just to keep the place for the user to understand, okay, I need to enter this here. Most especially because some people don't like using labels. So they'd rather, let's remove this label and prove what I'm trying to say. So at a glance, so I've removed all these labels and probably let me break them. I want the double break. Okay, so this looks fine. So at a glance, the user will not know what he should fill here, what he should fill here, what he should fill here. So let me make this bigger. So a placeholder is just a text that you write, just like a label, inside the form element so that the user will know the kind of information he should provide for each of those. So let's say we have a placeholder here. So for each of the attributes you define inside the form element, you have to keep a space after that. So we have placeholder, and then I can just type enter your first name. So this is not submitted. As a matter of fact, once the user starts typing, this disappears. So we have enter your first name. So the user will be able to type. You see, once I type John, it goes off. So let's just put placeholders for the rest. So this one is middle name. And this one is surname. Just a last name. Okay. All right. So that way it shows, even on mobile devices, you'll be able to read through these placeholders. So the user will come in and then type his first name. Okay, and then submits. There's no issue with that. So that shows again. So that's pretty much how you use placeholders to be able to place an information for the user to know what to type. So another element, another attribute to bring inside this element is what we call read only. Now there are two. There are two. So one of them is called read only, and then the other one is called disabled. They almost serve the same function. So we will see how to add this into our text. Say we had another, let's add another component. I will try to add, let's say a school name. Say I'm supplying this information for a school. So already you've logged in as a user of the school. So you don't need to type the name of the school again. So let's say we have input type for school name. Okay, and then we have text here. So let's just we don't need placeholder for this. We don't need max length because it's something that is already there. So what we will have now is so if we have read only here. Okay, but before that, let's talk about there's something else that looks like placeholder, but it's not placeholder. Now that's attribute is called value. Now there's a difference between a placeholder and a value. So let's just see the difference. So look at the value. The value is also inside the component, like the placeholder, but the values text is bold, is coming out, is not fainted. You understand what I mean? It's not muted, so to say. So these ones that are placeholders are muted, but the value is not muted. Another difference with the value is that, yeah, another difference is that if you click on placeholder, you begin to type, you don't need to erase anything. But if it's value, the value is a text that is already placed there. Placeholders are not placed, they are just showing, okay? So they will not be inserted in the database, but a value, if you click already, it will be sent to be submitted. So a value is the text that, just like you typed the text here, okay? So the value is already shown. So each time you refresh the page, the value will show and the text is stronger. How it shows is stronger. This one is fainted, is muted. So that's the difference between values. So there are times you need to collect some values. You want the users to actually see the value, but to be able to edit and maybe change it, okay? So you may have to use values. So it's used like a placeholder, but better than a placeholder in some cases. So now in this scenario, we will have a value, then also have what we wanted to talk about, read only. If we have a read only attribute for that element, what you'd notice is that the value has been supplied, but you cannot edit this text again. I'm trying to click and edit but it's not editing just because I added read only. If I remove this read only and try again, yes, I'll be able to. You see my cursor, I'm able to delete some text and change it. So when you add read only, it only shows what's there and will be submitted, but you are not able to edit the value. Okay, like I'm trying to edit the value. Now, there's another one called disabled. The only difference between read only and disabled is that um, the similarity is that both of them will be submitted while the form is submitted, but the difference is that the disabled will show this entire text box or component to be muted. It just shows that it is not relevant. You are not even supposed to come. It won't highlight it, bolden it, and bring it up. No, it won't. So let's use a disabled to see how this works. So if we use a disabled, now look at it's gone. It's just showing more like a placeholder, but you cannot type, you cannot do that here, you cannot do that there. So it depends on what you want. You can decide to use disabled, you can decide to use read only, you can decide to use placeholder, things like that to make your forms more intuitive. So we've discussed placeholder, we've discussed required, we've discussed read only, we've also discussed max length, disable, and value. Now, in the part C of this course, I I will take you through the CSS, how you can use CSS to modernize. So to say how you can use CSS to design your forms is really important because there are a lot of things you would like to do here to target a particular input type, to target a particular component, to do stuff, to get advanced CSS using forms. It's really tricky to do, but once you know how to do it, it's really nice. So because of that, I would just like to introduce two very important attributes you often hear of once we start using CSS. So we can have class and then we can also have ID. Okay, so just to make sure you start getting a feel of how it will look like. So these attributes will be captured by CSS, and then you'll be able to use these attributes to target a particular input and be able to design it. So that's the way you do it. You actually don't have to design it over here. HTML, like I used to tell you, it's for structuring, not for design of a web page. So you leave everything design into the next page while you focus on structuring in HTML here. So thank you so much for joining the second part of this class for forms. I'm so excited that you could make it, and I hope you've started writing some useful forms and working on your own. So I hope to see you in the next class. Remember to subscribe to this channel and like if you like the videos, or send a comment so we'll be able to improve on our videos. Thank you so much. Hope to see you in the next video. Yeah, goodbye.